Hey Scott, how are you?
I'm good, Mike. Hello.
It's it's officially the end of the holidays, which I believe goes Thanksgiving, Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, Christmas, New Year's, and the Consumer Electronics Show.
That's right.
But you're
In that
not
order.
down there. But you're not down there this year.
No, I followed it, but did not get sent. And so it's interesting doing various hits about it and stories about it without actually being there is kind of a challenge. But, it's just like you'd expect. Lots of robots, lots of drones, lots of AI, and et cetera.
And 90% of the consumer products will never make it to the world, to the marketplace.
Well, that's what the great thing about the show is that they admit these are things that might get to your living room in about 5 years.
Yeah.
And along the way, they'll either be replaced or, they'll run out of money or whatever. And so it's interesting to see and I put this in air quotes, humanoid robot that's going to do our laundry. And it'll be like, okay, I'll believe that when I see it. When
Yeah,
people
there were certain things, the chess player, the laundry thing, that you just thought, wouldn't it be easier just to do it yourself?
for the laundry, yeah, and chess, that's interesting because there's got to be something that people appreciate with another person sitting across from them. But if they don't need that, it seems like there's plenty of online opportunity to play chess all over the place. And I just wonder if you're going to buy a chess bot to play with you at home. But maybe it's the same one that does your laundry. So who knows?
Could be. Uh, uh, well, apparently the biggest buzzword at CES this year is physical AI. At least that's as the story goes, and it's Nvidia. Nvidia is going to be the theme of our call today because they're everywhere, especially Jensen Huang. He seems to be the most ubiquitous presence. He must have a couple clones that they're working on because he's doing speeches, he's doing presentations, he's showing up at other people's presentations. Uh, Guy's got energy. So physical AI, I'm going to read this. It's AI models that are trained as virtual environments using computer generated synthetic data. Then they're able to be deployed as physical machines once they've mastered their purpose. So, this is just basically a high speed design tool for the next generation of robots and chess playing machines and computer and washer loaders and all of that. Do I have that right?
Yeah, and it's interesting that Jensen was such a big presence at this year's CES. After all, it's a stretch, let's admit it, to say that NVIDIA is a consumer company. They make chips so that these AI companies can reach consumers powerfully with things like ChatGPT, and that robots can use those chips to, again, someday perform tasks in our home. So it was interesting to see him all over the place trying to convince a consumer tech show that NVIDIA is a consumer company. And I don't know if that says, hey, this AI thing needs to prove pretty quickly that those valuations make sense by
Yes.
saying someday the consumer is going to be interested. But it sure felt like he was doing a lot of work for someone running the most valuable company in the world.
Yeah. The other possibility, and I've seen this occur many times, companies bet everything on getting to the Consumer Electronics Show and then seeing who wants to see them. They set up a booth. They burn up 2/3 of their venture money making a nice booth, hoping that they can set up appointments with potential investors and buyers and distributors and all that. And maybe that's what NVIDIA is doing in a much grander way. They're creating a magnet over these few days to see who wants to come to them in the consumer business.
And that makes sense because they are important to the consumer business, no doubt, especially if that consumer business involves robotics and driverless cars and things like that. So I think what they're trying to say is in this era of pleasing the consumer with technology, we need chips. And it wasn't all that long ago that chips were literally the foundation of consumer technology. You think back to the Wintel days, and I think that's sort of what Jensen is going for here to say, you may think of us as B2B, but we're really B2C, and here's why. And I don't know if people are buying that, but that's what they're selling.
And I think there's a third reason too, and that is Intel's there, AMD's there, all showing off new chip, platforms. I think Nvidia heard, at least one or two of them heard that the other ones are going to be there. And they decided, okay, we got to be there too. And we got to show off new stuff. Because it hasn't been a silicon show in a long time. But now they're back in a big way. In fact, they got more media attention than everybody else, except for the dumb toy stuff. The chip companies were the big players at CES.
Right. And that's not as sexy as the toys or the, robots moving around, or even the driverless cars, not to mention the, face masks to get rid of your wrinkles and all that sort of technology. But you're right. And it'll be interesting to see the difference between what NVIDIA shows off or has shown off at CES and what they do at their upcoming GTC conference, which is usually where NVIDIA says, here's why we're necessary to all of you companies out there. And it seems like Jensen's jumping ahead a little bit of that to the larger stage to say, here's why we're necessary to all of you.
And try to steal the limelight from their two biggest competitors now.
Which they've been doing for some time, yeah.
Yes, but really reinforcing that. They introduced a heck of a lot of stuff. They have Cosmos, which is an AI foundation model trained on massive databases that actually can simulate environments using physical laws. That's one thing they introduced. They also announced that their next generation AI superchip platform, dubbed after the famous astronomer Vera Rubin, that it's in full production and it will be shipping soon. They also announced that they've gone into a partnership with Siemens. I'm not sure what for. I mean, does NVIDIA need Siemens? Siemens is an old German company, and I think Siemens needs NVIDIA connection a lot more, if only for PR, than NVIDIA. But that got announced too. And but all of that was upstaged when Jensen knelt down and called on the stage two little tiny robots. And all of a sudden, the audience, which was thousands, their attention was riveted on those little robots, and I think they forgot everything else that was announced.
Yeah, and Jensen has done that before, sort of conversing with small robots on stage. And if you think about the theme of this year's CES, some would say AI, and I get that, but that feels like a cop-out. I think this is about robotics. This is, driverless cars are what? They're robots. The Roomba, a robot. All these house cleaning things are robots. Whether they come in some sort of pseudo-human form or not, really, robots were all over the show floor, doing all sorts of tasks. Again, doing them slowly and clumsily. And I just don't know how long it's going to take until a robot can fold a shirt as fast as you or I can fold a shirt. But it seems like they're going in the direction of, we're going to make life easier for you. If AI is needed for that, okay. But we used to call that programming, and it just seems like the robots were everywhere this time.
Yeah, and they still haven't quite fulfilled that, crossed over that line into anthropomorphic behavior. I mean, they still look clunky. And, everybody's betting on Moore's Law will solve that with bigger and better chips and everything else. But, I mean, AI has gone a long ways in the last couple of years, and we still, the dog running down the hill, robot dog, is interesting and scary at the same time. But household appliances, not quite. They're a long ways off.
I agree. You know, Boston Dynamics, that company that makes those dogs that run around so menacingly, um, is not folding shirts. And there must be a reason because everything they do looks really good and, you know, to the point, like you say, of being scarily good. Uh, I I just wonder at some point somebody decided, hey, for some reason we have to make these robots look as human as possible and try to do human things. And we're just not there yet. It seems like the robots that can move quickly along the ground and clean up and do whatever, that's kind of where the action is. But again, at CES, everything does point to the future. And so I think that's why we still like this show, knowing that we don't expect what we see on the show floor to be in our living room just yet.
Okay, arguably the most exciting chip company is AMD. They came up so fast after all these years, 40 years in business, and all of a sudden they just started gobbling up market share and producing really great new products. And the CEO, Lisa Su, who was Jensen Huang's cousin, she announced a new line of its Ryzen AI processors that are expected to, advance the company even further. I guess they're very good. And then HP, and HP introduced its new Panther Lake series that it plans to use to bring more power to portable gameplay. So all three of them were there with banners flying, saying, "Look at us, we're doing this. Come on, everybody, catch up with your consumer product designs and make us more money." Okay, what did you find as the most intriguing or amusing new products at CES so far? It's now Thursday evening, so we're already 2 days into it. But what caught your attention? For me, it was the stair-climbing Roomba, which appears to have, it sprouts like chicken-like legs and climbs up to the next the next tread and works its way all the way up the escalator, yes, staircase.
Right. Yeah, and I like that too because that takes what has been a robot, and granted, iRobot, I think, has recently declared bankruptcy. So as a company, they didn't make it all that much, but the Rubins are still around. But that's a big question. How do they climb stairs? How do they get better? And that's what I think we like to see in robots. That impressed me even more than that sort of humanoid robot that was bending down to pick up your clothes and putting them in a hamper, or bending down to take your clothes out of the dryer and put them somewhere else. But that was the most intriguing thing, just to see, wow, there is all this investment going into how to make robots a little better. And I think the Roomba-like robot that sprouts legs is going to be more effective and helpful to us than the robot that really wants to look sort of like us.
Yeah. Now I'll put in a word for housewives that they may think that not having to bend over to pick up the laundry and shove it in the washing machine is the greatest invention since the sewing machine, because all those bad backs. I mean, I remember my mother saying, between carrying me and loading the dryer, she had a bad back for 35 years. So that may be another perspective we're not looking at.
Oh, I feel that. I've got that bad back from loading laundry and dishes, and not to mention carrying kids. And yeah, it's great. The idea that my back will improve, especially as I age. But do I want, if I had a small child, one of the robots I saw at CES carrying it around? Not yet. No.
Yeah, I'm not even sure I want a device that might shove my young child into the washing machine.
Right, exactly. It might confuse the tasks. Yeah.
Yeah. Anything else you saw that was interesting?
No, I mean, it's some of
It's
the
easy to
things.
get, after all these years we've been doing, it's easy to get kind of jaded, you
Right,
know?
right. I think the technology that's made, and we saw some of this at CES, that's made even more progress than humanoid robots are drones, and
Yeah.
what the drones are doing, both on the delivery side, which counts as consumer, but also the military side, which is just intimidating. I mean, it's impressive and intimidating at the same time to see what these drones are capable of. And I don't know if it's AI or just good programming, but the idea that they can carry out these tasks and, also, by the way, bring a book or a snack and drop it feet away from your door is just amazing to me. And that's what I think we're going to see a lot more of in the next several years.
Oh, I think we're going to see a whole lot more. Interestingly, as once again, it shows that the two driving forces for technological change are pornography and war. And the war in the Ukraine has moved this technology, this drone technology, ahead by generations in just in a few short years.
Right.
And I think we're all going to be, they're not, it's been horrifying for them, but we're going to be the beneficiaries of this.
Well, we always are traditionally when a conflict happens, it's terrible, but what comes out of it is new technology, new hardware, new intelligence. And it's sad, obviously, that's how we have to get it. But right, it's some of the stuff we saw, even on the show floor, is they're saying this is what's going to be in the battlefield tomorrow. Don't even wait 5 years. This is on its way right now. And, and I think that's where we are with drone technology.
I find it interesting that when President Trump introduced his new battleship idea, the reaction was muted because it was like they're not going to be able to stop a major drone attack. That they really don't know what the future battlefield looks like. Is it completely covered with drones, or are there physical items on that battlefield, or in the theater of war in the ocean? Can you protect yourself against a drone? And now they have underwater drones. So it used to be the fallback position was, well, we still have nuclear submarines. They can stay underwater and travel the world and not be seen. But now you have underwater drones. Is there any place where traditional military hardware is not obsolete?
I mean, I don't know about obsolete, but definitely in danger. And we've seen that with recent conflicts. And again, it's intimidating. It's certainly in play. A lot of companies are doing this, a lot of startups, also a lot of big companies funding these startups. President Trump is talking about the military. Look at Lockheed stock as you and I speak this week alone, not to mention the money going into startups. It's really where, like you say, the twain meet. We see technology and military, and the two always seem to bounce off each other.
Yeah. Okay. Before we run out of time, I want to mention the passing of a important figure, at least in Silicon Valley, and not a electronics guy. Tom Fogarty just died at age 91. He not only invented the inflatable catheter, which has saved probably millions of lives, but then he got interested in wine while he was with a friend at Stanford Hospital, and he ended up buying tons of acres and acres of land in the Santa Cruz Mountains and became one of the world's leading winemakers. A very interesting character, very Silicon Valley, but not Silicon Valley. And he just died at 91. And, his invention may impact all of us at some point in our lives. So, thank you, Tom.
It's very true. And yet, I know of him from the wine. I think because the other thing was so long ago. And yet you're right. Whenever I read about that, it's like, wow, the wine guy really is saving lives at the same time. It's impressive. So absolutely salute.
You read about all these advances in technology and the celebrated inventors and all that, but there are people who have saved literally millions of lives through genetics or biology or medical technology. And you got to figure, if anybody on Earth sleeps well at night, having fulfilled their purpose in this world, it's those people.
Yes.
So anyway, folks, we'll see you next week. You know where to find us. Scott on YouTube, Facebook, and obviously NBC Bay Area, where I saw him last night. I think he was on tonight too, talking about CES. And we'll see you next week. Take care. Bye-bye.